First of all, I'd like to thank Squarespace for making this series possible. If you're in need of a website, a domain, or an online store, make your next move with Squarespace. So if you haven't already watched part 1 of this series, definitely go and watch that first, otherwise this might not make too much sense. If you have already watched it, well, hello and welcome, and I hope you enjoy this part. So today is Saturday and we've just made it down to the skate park. It's about 5:30, so the light's just about to get good. It's a bit smoggier today than it has been the previous days, which might lend some niceness to the kind of softbox natural niceness, but the sun's still a bit too high, which is why I can barely keep my eyes open. So as the sun sets a bit more, this is probably the busiest day at the skate park we're going to get, so hopefully today should be a productive day. Wow. Excuse me, I was wondering if I could take your portrait. Could I take a photo of you?
Oh yeah?
Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Look just towards me. And just one more. Thank you very much. Didn't expect him to say yes. Guess sometimes it's just better off asking. 3, 2, 1. Thanks. I wasn't really sure where to put him, and there wasn't much space for me to walk backwards, so I'm not sure I'd thought about the framing enough. Like, it's quite tricky because you're asking for someone's time and they're obviously busy, and I don't feel like I want to use them too long. Could be not that good. So after this point, the battery for the microphone happened to die and we didn't have any spares, so from this point onwards the noise is pretty ambient, so I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to come back in and tell you what was going on. It was essentially just more of the same, just taking some more photos of what was going on. Have this one of these two guys squaring up, which was interesting. They just got annoyed at each other for cutting each other in the queue. And then captured this one of all the orange because colour is important in colour photography. And then got another portrait of this guy who was cool. That leads us on to day 5, which for some reason there isn't much footage of, and I thought maybe we'd outline this as well. But as you can guess, it's more of just the same. I think when you're shooting something that's actually trying to capture what it's like at some place, you just need to keep going and keep shooting, and even though some of it felt a bit repetitive at this point, I think there was definitely some photos that were worth taking on that day. I tried to mix it up a bit by using the Mamiya a bit more to get a wider angle, and I also tried to get some long exposures handheld just to see what they'd add to the mix. So it's just experimenting and having fun. It is now a few days after the last segment of video where we finished up shooting. We've had a few days of rest since then. Louis has also left us, he's gone to do some other stuff, and we're just about to leave to go to Richard Photo Lab, who is developing all of our film for the trip. So it's quite exciting to drop it all off and see the results. Also quite exciting to see how one of the biggest labs in America works. We had an hour's drive out of the city to the lab, which was incredibly nice and scenic to see considering we spent most of our time actually in Venice. We then had a lovely tour around the facilities at Richard, and I was most amazed by the handmade developing machine areas constructed out of shipping containers, and the fact that the C41 machine even had an infrared live feed to check on the developing. It was amazing to see how much love and care goes into each roll of film, and just incredible to see how many scanner operators they have working. It's quite reassuring to see a lab have this much film go through it each day, and definitely helped me feel that film is definitely something that people are using and is on the rise. And that pretty much takes us up to the modern time. At this point I hadn't actually seen any of the scans, so I guess I could go into detail about getting them and reviewing them, but because you've already seen all of them as the video was going through, I didn't think there was too much point doing that. So after this came the huge task of editing down all the photos and making some small corrections, and then eventually arranging them into an order for a zine. This is all going to be covered in the next episode, so stay tuned and stick around for that, which will be coming on Saturday. And finally, I'd like to give a huge thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this series and helping us do all of this. If you're in need of a place to build a website, a domain, a store, a blog, anything you want, definitely check them out and you can get 10% off using the code negativefeedback. I'd also like to give a big thank you to Richard Photolab for being so accommodating whilst we were out there. If you're shooting film in America, definitely try sending it out to Richard. They're such a great lab and so friendly, and the results are really incredible. And they also scan the film to your preference and all these great things. So we've linked them in the description, and why not give them a try and say that we sent you. So hopefully you're excited for the next episode, going in depth about why I chose certain photos, how I use InDesign and Lightroom, etc. And yeah, see you on Saturday.